Hello again. I wanted to come in today and talk to you briefly about a topic that has been popping up a lot in recent client sessions, in our conversations around making decisions. Um, and it's something that has also been playing up in my mind for a while. Um, so today I just wanted to pop in briefly and just give you some initial thoughts, and then when it fully forms in my head, I will come back and probably write a longer post for you on the blog. So the topic is about what can you do right now? And often there are lots of sort of decisions or areas in our lives where we feel like we're sort of in limbo, where we can't move forward with a change, perhaps because we're waiting on something else to happen. I can think of many things like starting our own business while we're still working for someone else, or waiting until we move to that new place, or waiting until we have X amount of money in our bank account until we do something. And these are all very, understandable sort of situations, and we all have to go through them sometimes because it makes sense to plan for things, and be prepared as much as we can. But when does it become an excuse? When does it become a form of resistance of moving forward? And that has often been the case in my life, where I know where we're living at the moment is in a way temporary, but it hasn't necessarily fully formed, in our heads or between us, where our next step will be. And this has been ongoing for, quite a few years now. And even though we, both of us, my partner and I, we both know that longer term we don't see ourselves staying in London, we also knew for a while that temporarily this is where we are. And this word temporarily is quite a big one, because if we have this idea that what we do is temporary, where we're at is temporary, there's almost a resistance to committing fully, to showing up fully, because you always say, you always have this back thought that, yeah, but anyway, in a few years we will move. Or anyway, in a few months things will change. So I wonder how much that affects us. I wonder how much it affects the now. And there always has to be a balance between what, how much we invest in the future, how much we plan and prepare and scheme and, create for the future, and how much we actually enjoy the now. And I know that between my partner and I, we're quite different, and I'm much more a now person. I do want to plan for the future, but I've never been very good at staying focused on that sort of plan. So my decisions have always really stemmed from, okay, what can I do now to feel what I want to feel? So the conversations with coaching clients recently have been around, okay, so at the moment things are not ideal. Spoiler alert, they never are. But things are not ideal right now. You're not at the perfect job. You're not at the, you don't have the amount of money you thought you would have by now. Maybe you don't have the partner that you want in your life, whatever it is. Or maybe you don't have the body. That's often a conversation that I have around body image and confidence in oneself. And there's a sense that, I can't put myself out there until I am perfect, until I'm at the place where I envision myself to be when I took that step. So I can't I can't allow myself to have that routine. I can't commit to my, I can't commit to my well-being and to my happiness. I can't almost, we resist allowing ourselves to have that that joy in the moment, because we think that, well, I'm not there, I'm not at the place where I should be, or I can't really fully be here because I also want to be there. So um, there's that sort of inner struggle between, where we want to be and where we are. And also, when the time is an issue, when we have to wait for that future, change to happen. So it's not that we just can't make the change now, it's also that we have to wait for X, Y, and Z to happen before we can move forward. And that what creates, I found that in a lot of discussions that I have with my clients, it creates a lot of discomfort, a lot of disease, because it basically means that you can neither be here nor there. It creates a lot of anxiety around, well, I don't know what to do now because I have all these plans for the future, medium term, long term, even short term. In a couple of months I will move, and therefore, what's the point of me investing in where I am right now? And the point is that if you don't focus on what's happening now, that future part of you will still not be what you want it to be, because change is now. You have to change now. You cannot change in the future. So you create change by taking action now, and by envisioning, by visualizing, by meditating, by, I want to say daydreaming, and it is really that. It's creating that vision in your mind of where you want to be and how that change will feel when you're there. But it all happens right now. So my question to you, if you are struggling with something like that, is what can you do now? So let's say you're not at the place where you want to be yet, or you have to wait for something to happen later on. So there's a change, there's an upcoming change, whether it's a positive one or a not so desired one. What can you do now to bring in a feeling of space, a feeling of whatever the feeling is actually that you want to bring in, whatever the feeling of the change that the change will bring. So let's say I have a client who's moving countries in a few months' time, and there's a sense that right now everything in her life is temporary, because she's waiting for that move to be able to resettle, press the reset button, and start fresh. So on many levels, in business, home, of course, you're gonna have to wait until you're there to physically make some changes. But what can you do right now? What can you do right now to help you bring in that feeling of, I'm moving forward. I'm not feeling stuck. I'm not stuck in where I am just because I'm waiting for that, that particular change to happen. What can you do now to bring in that emotion that you're desiring? What action can you take? Who can you speak to? What can you research, even if you can't physically change right now? Taking forward action will really help you to feel like, okay, I'm not at the mercy of whatever change is happening in the future. And also, especially if there's a change that's about to happen, or maybe will happen, which is not completely dependent on just you, it can be very, very difficult to navigate those feelings around, I have to wait for someone else to decide, or I have to discuss this, and I have to take into account what my partner feels, what my family feels, or what my boss thinks, da-da-da-da-da. It can basically mean that very quickly you take yourself out of the equation and say, well, this is out of my control. I can't do anything, and therefore I'm just going to sit here and wait. And sitting here and waiting is probably the worst thing you can happen when there's overwhelm. When there's a sense of I'm stuck and I don't feel like I'm aligned with where I am now because I want to be somewhere else or I'm going to be somewhere else, and therefore you're taking the joy out of now. So there's a lot of stuff here, and as I said at the beginning, I will return to this topic and break it down a little because there's various factors that can play into it. But for the time being, I'm going to ask you again, what can you do now? If you're waiting on something to happen, if you're anticipating a change, but it's not in the immediate present, what can you do now to bring in that feeling that you're desiring? What can you do now? All right, let me know your thoughts. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.